to prepare.
Hello, Radio Land. Welcome to another Dreammakers 365, a year-long internet radio show. And you might be asking the question, why Dreammakers 365? Why 365? Well, I'll tell you why. We have number one, our first mission, part of that mission, is to provide or give a voice to the voiceless. Number two, we want to provide African American history 365 days a year to our children every week, day after day. Lastly, we want to help to inspire, to encourage, help to save the lives of people through this show. As you know, being an ordained minister, we want to certainly offer hope to people in Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, and I'm sure to people who are listening throughout Radio Land. So, again, we're glad that you tuned in with us on tonight. We will look at a national community development involvement, movement, so to speak, in Black America, in the Black community. And our guest tonight is a young man that's very dynamic. And I definitely think of one of the great men in the Bible. We talk of Gideon, a man of valor. This is a courageous young man whom I had the pleasure of meeting years and years ago when he was just a child, a lad. And now he's full-grown man doing very well, not far from here, just 60 miles from here. And that's going to be Mr. Calvin Works, who I will be calling here shortly, and we'll introduce him. But we've got some preliminaries. We want to, set it on fire here and get it going for him before he should come on the air. And our Black History Person of the Week is John H. Johnson, the founder and president, CEO, and all of that. When we think of the historic ebony and jet, should I say, a gigantic business here in Chicago and around the world still is, that is credited to John H. Johnson, who had a vision. And we thank God for his daughter, who is still carrying on that legacy here in this great city of ours here in Chicago. So we want to certainly talk about him in just a minute. But since we're talking about community development, I did get a flyer from my dentist's office. They're doing something very unique in Gary, Maryville area, a day of giving back to the community, donated dental. I've not heard of this nowhere in the country. If that's the case, please feel free to email me and let me know about it, because I certainly want to know about it, or Facebook me, whatever. But they're giving free dental work for those with no insurance. That means fillings. That means cleanings and extractions. We're talking Friday on the 21st, 3 at 7891 Broadway Suite 6 or C in Maryville, Indiana. Again, they're giving some free dental work for those with no insurance right all across the border. If you need fillings, if you need cleanings and extractions, that's Friday, December 21st from 9 to 3 at 7891 Broadway Suite C, Maryville, Indiana. And trust me, they do great work there. I've been dealing with them for quite a while. Let us open up with a word of prayer, and we're going to move forward into our show. So anxious anticipation of our speaker, who will be called in Kankakee County, a great county where I used to live. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the producers of this show. We thank you for the guests who have come. We thank you, Lord, for all of those people who are part of making this a wonderful studio here at IntellectualRadio.com. We thank you for Brother Earl Winfrey, the other Winfrey, and we thank you for Wanda B., who works tirelessly here to help, to do the work behind the scenes so that these particular issues and lives of these people who have come in America, like the John H. Johnsons and so many other ones, can be talked about, can be elevated. We thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen. First up, John H. Johnson, born January the 19th, 1918, passed his life August the 8th, 2005. Was an American businessman and a publisher. He is the founder of Johnson Publishing Company. And to make a long story short, how that came to be, how he got started, was when his mother, I believe, put her furniture up for collateral, Brother Earl, in order for him to be able to start his company long before Jet. And I thank God for his mother who took a chance on her livelihood, her possessions for collateral for him to one day become a great tycoon, not only a black tycoon, but American tycoon, to build this wonderful empire, Johnson Publishing Company. And in 1982, he became the first African American, listen to this, to appear on the Forbes 400. Johnson's Ebony, founded in 1945, and Jet, he founded in 1951. I'll never forget hearing of people talking about the images that really brought out him when he put the images of Emmett Till on the front page. He was the one that let us see what that looked like, Emmett Till, after, of course, his murder. It was a sad situation, but it was because of John H. Johnson. Anyway, among the most influential African-American businesses in the media in the second half of the 20th century. In his early years in education, Johnson was born in Arkansas City, Arkansas, the grandson of slaves. When he was just a lad at 6 years old, his father died in a sawmill accident, and Johnson was raised by his mother and stepfather. He attended an overcrowded and segregated elementary school. Such was his love of learning. He repeated the 8th grade rather than discontinue education, because he could have just said, to heck with it, I'll just drop out. But he stayed with it. And there was no public high school for African Americans in Arkansas City or anywhere else in DeShaw County. That's terrible, Earl. No public school for African Americans. So you know how they were learning. In the church house, they had to get an education. And I thank God for those teachers who took the time and made an education out of it. And the best place, as far as I'm concerned, to get an education is in the church in the first place, if you talk about Sunday school. After a visit with his mother to the Chicago's World's Fair, they decided that the opportunities in North were more plentiful than in the South, facing poverty on every side in Arkansas. During the Great Depression, the family moved to Chi-Town, to Chicago in 1933 to try to find work in Johnson to continue his education. Johnson entered all-black DuSable High School, where his mother and stepfather, they scoured the city for jobs during the day while he was looking for work while he was in school, the father and mother. That's powerful. Now, let me go ahead and get to the nitty-gritty about him and give you some timelines. 1949, he renamed the Negro Digest Publishing Company as Johnson Publishing Company and moved the headquarters to Calumet. Subsequently, he established another magazine called Tan, a true confession type of magazine. In 1951, he started a weekly news digest, as I told you, initially called the Weekly Negro Magazine. It became nationally famous in 1955 with the coverage of Emmett Till's lynching. Later, it continued to cover civil rights movement, including the Montgomery bus boycott and the murder of Martin Luther King Jr. He also started the African American Stars in Ebony Jr. I remember watching that show as a child, and that was later on when they had a lot of the shows coming up in the 70s and 80s with the Ebony Fashion Fair and all of that. Its successes led him to develop a line of cosmetics, which would be launched in 1973. And in 1970, he changed the name of the National Digest to the Black World. Later in 1973, he started the Fashion Fair Cosmetic. As far as I'm concerned, John H. Johnson made us feel, and we are black and proud. And we thank God for John H. Johnson. John H. Johnson is best remembered for creating Ebony, a journal that is being continuously published since 1945 with the aim of portraying the African American community in a positive light. It initially emphasized on the achievements of successful African Americans, but later included all issues important to African American community. Lord, have mercy. Here's some of his awards and achievements. 1951, John H. Johnson was selected as the Young Man of the Year by the United States Chamber of Commerce. He was the first African American to receive such an award. In 1966, he received the Spingham Medal by the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People for his contributions in the area of race relations. In 1989, he received the Candace Award for Distinguished Service from the National Coalition of 100 Black Men. And in 1995, Johnson received the Communication Award on the occasion of Ebony's magazine's 50th anniversary. And in 1996, he receives the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Bill Clinton. That is the highest award that you can receive as an American civilian. Hallelujah. He also received lots and lots of honorary degrees from 31 institutions, among which are Howard University, Northwestern University, Howard University, University of Southern California, and the Carnegie Mellon Institute. In his personal life, again, he was married to Eunice Walker, postgraduate student at Loyola University in Chicago. They got married on June 21st, 1941. And Eunice later became the secretary treasurer and director of the Ebony Fashion Fair, which many people have known about it traveling throughout the country. They adopted two children, one of which, Linda Johnson, John Harold Johnson Jr. in 1981. 25-year-old John died from sickle cell anemia. Linda grew up to become the president and chief executive officer of Johnson Publishing Company while her father remained the chairman. And that, my friend, is the life of, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest Americans, black or white. Awesome fella. Now, I need to give it to us straight. I'm going to light this fire because I want Calvin to tell us about community development when he gets on. But I did some homework, and I want to share with us 4 ways that we need to get involved in 2019 in our community. And this information is brought to you by the United Black America. And it talks about number 1 way we need to get involved. And this is one of my pet peeves, Brother Earl. I can't stand filth and dirty paper everywhere. We need to, as the United Black America states, have a cleanup day. Clean up the South Side. That's a start right there. Before the money comes, clean up your neighborhood. Clean up your communities in Los Angeles, Las Vegas. Because it's sad to say, I've been around a lot of cities, and the first thing I notice is that a black neighborhood, and it's sad for me to say that, Earl, when I go to Dallas, Texas, and places, certain neighborhoods, how they look. Because we can take better care of our community. That's the beginning of community development right there. Clean up your neighborhood. That's important. Everyone feels good when things are nice and clean, including their neighborhoods. Walking around, seeing trash everywhere is not a good feeling. It is not safe for children of pets meeting up with garbage bags, gloves, and brooms and to make a difference. So I believe that's something that we need to do. Secondly, organize a food and clothing drive every month. Take donations all month of clean clothing, lightly used shoes. The food should be healthy choices for people. Collect fresh fruits and vegetables 2 to 3 days before the drive. See if restaurants will donate time and food. Make it a fun and festive, cultural, offer coffee, tea, entertainment if possible. Okay. Next one. Serve or cook at a soup kitchen. That's important. Currently, people volunteer at soup kitchens a few days a week before they go to work. There are people that you meet there, all kinds of people, from the mentally ill, their PhDs in chemists, to people who have been homeless for decades. So it has no particular limit on it. There are people of all walks of life who fall on hard times, and we need to look out for them, and that's important. And lastly, we need to organize a read in for children and a movie night for adults or children. They read in for children is having a space at the library. I think this is very nice. Community center, other venues where you have a day where volunteers read to children. You can have different areas for reading and art. Movie night or evening for adults can be a way to watch movies that can help with critical, creative thinking and stimulating conversations. So here comes the question. Why do we need a community development in America? Why do we need it? A resurgence of community development. Just so I don't step on anybody's toes, there are things going on out here. But we need to look at resurgence, doing something different, making it better. Historically, adversity, which includes slavery, sharecropping, race-based exclusion from health, educational, social, and economic resources, translates into what? Socioeconomic disparities experienced by African Americans today. And that is what's going on. And that is why we have lackluster community development in Black America. It is a problem. But yet we have all of these celebrities. We have all of these successful people making good money, but we don't invest in our own community. It's a problem. Prevalence. Let me say this before Kevin comes on. I want to set the stage. Adult Black and African Americans are 20% more likely to report a serious psychological distress than adult whites. Check. Adult Black and African Americans living below poverty are 3 times more likely to report serious psychological distress than those living above poverty. Check. Adult Black and African Americans are more likely to have a feeling of sadness, hopelessness, worthlessness than all adult whites. That's a problem. Here's another check. And while Black African Americans are less likely than white people to die from suicides as teenagers, Black African American teenagers are more likely to attempt suicide than are white teenagers, who are 8.3% versus 6.2%. Something we need to think about. So why we need the community development? While implementation of Affordable Care Act has helped to close the gap, and you know they're trying to mess with that with a judge in Texas who says it's unconstitutional, be careful. Okay, they're trying to take that away from us. 15.9% of African Americans are getting that help versus 11.1% of white Americans who still are uninsured. But we have 15.9% of us who need the Affordable Care Act and are uninsured. In 2012, the percentage of people who were unable to get or delayed in getting needed medical care or prescription medicines was significantly higher for people with no health insurance. That's 18.7% than the people with private insurance at 8.4%. So we need it without delay. This is important for us to get medical care. It's part of community development. That's important. And lastly, before I call my brother, why community development educationally? By 2012, African Americans had advanced greatly in educational attainment. That's good. But here's the bad news. They still lag overall compared to white or Asian Americans, but surpassed other ethnic minorities, with 19% earning bachelor's degrees, 6% of them earning advanced degrees. And I'm going to share with you about Calvin, who is doing mightily down in Kankakee County, receiving his advanced degree or completing his master's program. We'll talk about that. Black women are enrolled in college more than any other race and gender group, leading all with 9.7% enrolled, according to 2011 United States Census Bureau. So these are some educational statistics that I wanted to share with us, which are very important. In the United States, in the U.S. cities, after 100 years of African Americans leaving the South, in large numbers seeking better opportunities in the West and the North, a movement known as the Great Migration, there is now a reverse trend called the New Great Migration. As with the earlier migration, the New Great Migration primarily directed towards cities in large urban areas. We need community development, Brother Earl, in these communities. Guess what cities we're talking? People are moving to Atlanta. People are moving to Charlotte. We need community development. People are moving to Houston, Texas. Where's the community development? People are moving to Dallas, Texas. And I can tell you in my neighborhood where I grew up in Mississippi, more than 12, 13 folks have moved to Dallas area or Houston area. People are not coming to Chicago like they used to. They are going to these cities. They're going to Raleigh, North Carolina. They're going to Tampa. They are going to San Antonio. Huh? They are even going to Memphis. And Memphis has had its highest crime areas, but they got a sister over there next to them called Nashville. People are moving to Nashville. Am I right, Earl? They're moving there. They're moving to Jacksonville, Florida, and so forth. So there's a growing percentage of African Americans from the West and the North. They are migrating to the southern regions of the United States for economic and cultural reasons. New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles have the highest decline in African Americans, while Atlanta, Dallas, and Houston have the highest increase, respectively. Okay? Among the cities of 100,000 or more, Detroit had the highest percentage of Black residents of any United States city in 2010, with 82%. Other larger cities with African American majorities including Jackson, Mississippi, Miami Gardens, Florida, Baltimore, Maryland, Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, Montgomery, Augusta, Georgia. All of these cities, the nation's most affluent community with African American majority, resides in View Park, Windsor Hills, California. They have an annual income of $159,618. So people are moving. People are looking for better neighborhoods. We need young minds like Calvin to come up with community development kinds of things that will help people to stabilize themselves so they can live the American dream. Those are very important. Economically, African Americans have benefited from the advances made during the civil rights era, particularly among the educated, but not without the lingering effects of historical marginalization. When considered as a whole, what am I talking about? Listen, the racial disparity in poverty rates has narrowed. Black middle class has grown substantially. In 2010, 45% of African Americans own their own home, compared to 67% of all Americans. So the poverty rate among African Americans has decreased from 26.5% in 1998 to 24% 7 in 2004. Now, my last point before I introduce our brother. In 2011, it was reported that 72% of all black babies were born to unwed mothers. Where's the community development? We got a problem. I mentioned that last week, Brother Earl, in your absence. That's a problem. 72% of children born to unwed mothers. That's nothing to brag about. We got to do something about that. Now, we love our children, and we love all of God's children, but we need to look at some programs so that we don't have this high number. We need to do what the Bible said. God made Adam and Eve to work together to raise them babies. Am I right about it? So we got to fix that problem. We, not us or them, but us. The poverty rate among single parenting families was 39.5% in 2005, according to Williams, while it is only 9.9% among married couples, black families. Not to knock single mothers. If you're a single mother and your children are making it, great. But I always want to do it right. We need to strive for a married couple because we see the differences in statistics. And math ain't gonna lie. 1 + 1 is 2. It ain't gonna never be 3. Among white families, the respective rates were 26.4% and 6% in poverty. Collectively, African Americans are more involved in the American political process than any other minority group in the United States, indicated by the highest level of voter registration and participation in elections among these groups in 2004. African Americans collectively attain higher levels of education than immigrants to the United States. Last point before I introduce our guest. African Americans also have the highest level of congressional representation of any minority group in America. I'm going to introduce our guest, and we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to give him a call. Calvin Works. We're going to introduce him first. Calvin Works is a man of God desiring a world full of people living their life empowered by the word of God. His greatest joy is being the husband to Patrice Works and the father to Montel, to Mia, and Jaya, and Zion. He has the wonderful privilege of serving as a deacon at Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church. Those who know him speak about his down-to-earth manner or demeanor, a loving spirit. Mr. Works lives by 3 values: faith, family, and community. Calvin Works has earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Grambling State University in Grambling, Louisiana, and now an MBA with a concentration in not-for-profit management from Olivet Nazarene University. He's very involved with his community. He currently sits on the Kankakee School District 111 Board of Education. He's very committed to making a difference in the lives of others within the community. He's also a certified leadership trainer through the John C. Maxwell Certification Program. Calvin firmly believes that men living out their God-given purpose can make a difference in the world. His favorite quote, which he challenges all to do, comes from a great American, W.E. Du Bois. Quote, "Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done. Not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime." End quote. Powerful by great American W.E. Du Bois. that he lives by, Brother Calvin Works. Last statements before we take a break and call him. Motivated by his education, personal development, and life's experiences, Mr. Works has decided to run for the second ward alderman in the city of Kankakee, Illinois, this upcoming 2019 election season. When successful, I like that, not if successful, when successful, Calvin Works will be the youngest African American representative on the city council board for Kankakee, and his hope is to create a safe, revitalized, and connected neighborhood. Now, we'll take a break and we'll call Calvin in just a second.
Now is the time to prepare our hearts and minds and come before our King.
Alrighty, we are on the line with Mr. Calvin Works, Brother Calvin Works. Thank you for joining with us tonight, Mr. Works, the Dream Makers 365 and Intellectual Radio Show. How are we feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good. And I really appreciate you providing me the opportunity to share with you and talk with you.
Yes.
What's going on in my life and in my community I serve. So
very good.
I really appreciate that.
Well, awesome. We've got some questions we want to ask you, and feel free to share any additional information, because we know that you're doing some great works down in my old stomping ground, and that's my second home. I consider Kankakee my second home, and I'm so thankful that I had the pleasure of meeting up with you when you were just a lad, a child. Now you're a grown man and doing great things. So tell the listening audience, Brother Works, about your background.
Well, so I am a graduate from Grambling State University. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. We moved to Illinois in the 90s. My mom wanted to help with her mother after she had a stroke. I attended school with her, played athlete. I was an athlete, played football. I played basketball. Playing football gave me the opportunity to go to school and play ball there. Ended up eventually playing ball at Grambling. Received my bachelor's of business management there. And then came back home to Kankakee, Illinois. Something I did not want to. I can be honest with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking forward to going to Atlanta, the downtown area, and being out there. But God led me back here. And for years, I was wondering what that would be, why I was back in Kankakee. And I ended up working as a paraprofessional at Kankakee School District, Speed, Chicago Heights. I ended up working on my master's, ended up getting a job at American Dental Association downtown Chicago. And now, in all my years' experiences and my opportunities, I have found myself wanting to serve the community at large in a bigger capacity. And so now I'm here, getting ready to run for alderman for second ward in the city of Kankakee. So
great.
That's just me in a nutshell right there.
Perfect. We're going to be talking about those items that you mentioned, particularly your run for alderman of Ward 4 in Kankakee. And also we want to talk about this big question I have for you. And that is, I do understand you have a passion for community development. Tell the listening audience why, Brother Works. Why you want to tackle the community development area or arena? Why is that?
Well, I live in an area where I see people suffering. And I remember growing up how hard it was for my mom to raise me and my brother. So I see people daily who are trying to find themselves, trying to find purpose, and trying to find something that makes them feel happy in life. And I feel like it's the job of our community leaders to do what they can to establish relationships with these people to figure out what their needs are. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, especially in Kankakee, especially in Second Ward, there are many residents who are not attended to. They're not getting the support they need. And the world that we live in is chaotic. All that's going on with shootings from a law enforcement. We have a president who is leading in a way that puts everyone in danger. We have politics that is not equal. Equity is not done in a way that where everyone gets what they need to be successful. And so, for me, I see that, and I feel if anytime you see something that you can make a difference in, you should be the first one to step up instead of looking for someone else to do it.
That's right.
And so I feel God has put me in that position to do that. My wife, she supports me. She knows my heart, and I got our children.
Yes.
I look at them. If I was to die today, I would not feel comfortable for them to live in a world without me. Okay. And so if I want to have them live in a place where they can be successful, I need to start creating that place for them and help others do that for their children. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to be here forever. And the future leaders need us to start doing the work now.
That's true. That's true. And I understand by, looking at your information, you had something out on and still do on Facebook or somewhere where you have plans in January to offer help to children, young Black males. Tell us about that program. I mean, you're going to be doing something like that in 2019, or we'll be doing something period like that.
Yes. Yeah. So I received my certificate from the John C. Maxwell Leadership Program as a trainer, as a coach, as a speaker. And John C. Maxwell provides so many resources to help those who want to be in leadership, to help those be great leaders. The biggest thing that happened to me was I had men come into my life who believed it. I had my high school football coach. I'll never forget this. He believed in me to be a starting quarterback. Mm-hmm. And he would talk with me and he would mentor me. And the greatest thing he told me, he said, if your greatest work ethic provides you with A, I'm happy for you. If you give all you can and you get an F, I'm still happy for you and I believe in you. Mm. And a lot of times our kids are scared to fail because they feel like no one's going to be there to support them. And so with this program I want to do is to kind of teach them and to teach them the same things that I was taught. First you got to take ownership of your life, regardless of what's going on, regardless if you don't have a father in your household, regardless if you don't have the joy that you see your friends have, regardless if you live in a poor neighborhood, you still have to have ownership of your life. And some kids don't understand how to do that.
Yes.
And so with this leadership program, we're going to teach them how to value themselves, how to create a network of individuals that will be with them and support them. Secondly, this program is directed to providing a solution to a problem that we have in our community. A year ago, I wanted to do a lock-in for 100 males at our park district. Mm-hmm. And I was told no, because the park district doesn't stay open past a certain hour. But I sent that email because there was a kid that was murdered.
Yeah.
And as a resident, I should be able to work and partner with any entity in the city to do things. And the fact that no one saw that our young men dying was a problem, well, someone got to step up. Like I said earlier, if you see a problem, go be the solution.
There you go.
So it's a solution for kids to come in. Preferably, I get some sponsors But even if I don't, it's still a service I'm going to provide. If it's one kid or if it's 10 kids, I just want to be a blessing to some kid that might help them change their course of thinking and direction where they're going.
Great. Now, how can someone get in contact with you if they're interested in being a part of this great endeavor you're talking about?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So if anyone that is listening or that might hear a recording, you can email me. My email address is C as in Calvin, D as in David, works at me.com. I'm on Facebook, Calvin Works. If you search me, I'll be there. If you would like to reach out to Reverend Parker,
yes.
He has my contact information. If you know him, please get with him.
Yes.
But yeah, anyone that's willing to help out, if you want to come and talk, if you want to share your story, I'm definitely willing to work with anyone to make sure that these young men get what they need to move in life forward.
That's great. That's great. Now let's talk some politics. Politically,
yes, sir.
I am hearing, and now you can let the world know that you are running for public office in your ward where you live in Kankakee, of course. Why politics, Calvin? Why politics?
It's to answer the question, I never knew that I would be someone getting involved in politics because of the negative meaning that comes with it, or the negative perception.
True.
With politics. You see individuals who have a position and they come and ask for your vote, and you don't see them until it's time for re-election. Kankakee, to me, is a perfect place for the right people to come in to really do what's needed for the people. And I see that that's not in some of our leaders' mindset. Some of our leaders are in positions because they want to make sure that their name is known. Some are connected to other people. They want to make sure that money flows their way. And it's just corrupt way of thinking in some of the leadership that we have. And so my goal as a young man, I'm 30 years old, is if I'm going to find out how to get the money to Kankakee, I need to go into the place where the money is at. And anything dealing with a community, local government, you have to go where the money is held in the state of Illinois.
That's right.
And to go and lobby on behalf of the people. I'm not going to be a lobbyist, so to speak, but in the same mindset, whatever position you hold, whether that's city clerk, mayor, city manager, a council member, you have to go and speak to the individuals who hold the key to the budget to say these are the needs. And then I want to change the way we do and operate in the city of Kankakee. And so one thing, and I use a sports analogy.
Yes.
If I find out as an athlete, I play quarterback. So if I find out what a weak part of your defense is, I'm going to expose it so that I can make sure that I'm successful at all time.
Yeah.
Same way with the system that's set up in Kankakee. Not that I want to expose people for their negligence or to make them look bad, but the system that allows a lot of people in the second ward or in your city of Kankakee to be ignorant of how things go, to allow them to live in poverty, to allow them to accept that whatever you say what's matter, to allow them to believe that if I'm connected to such and such, then I get the things that I want. I want to go against that because that's not true. That's not real government. That's not real real life. And so I know what I'm going against is a wall. Yes. It might be hard to break down, but I said this before. I will hit the wall as hard as I can so that the next generation that comes in can break it all the way down.
That's
and
right.
So we got to create a system that's for them. And not that I want to do politics to go that route, but that is the mainstream of how to get it done in Kankakee. And so if I got to learn how to do it, I'm going to learn how to do it.
That's so true. That's so true. So what will be your top 3 things that you want to do, I would assume, your first year in office? And you can add to it.
The biggest thing I want to do is create a relationship with everyone in the second ward.
Okay.
And I mean, there's nothing that you can do for anybody without understanding who they are.
Okay.
Right? My first job I received when I was in college, I worked for Methodist Children's Home. A director shared with me that all behavior has meaning.
Okay.
The way people operate in Kankakee is there's a meaning behind it. And if we want them to be educated, you have to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to hit the streets. They're going to know me. They're going to get to know me, and I'm going to survey as soon as I get sworn in. I'm going to survey what their true needs are, what they are trying to get done in their own individual lives.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I'm going to do is, once I do that, I'm going to encourage them to participate with me. I go back to the book of Nehemiah. I'm a Christian, so everything I do is God led. Nehemiah was chosen to go out back to Jerusalem to rebuild the walls because there was a need. He heard about what was going on. God gave him a vision. The king gave him resources. He went out. Before he did anything, he surveyed the needs of that city, of that community, that broken community.
Good.
When he was done with that, he then encouraged the people to be a part of the vision that God gave him. And as you read and study Nehemiah, they built the walls quicker than they should have done if they would have done it by themselves. But each family had a part in building the wall. Each family had a part of doing something. They had a tool in one hand and a weapon in the other. And so in order for the city of Kankakee to move forward, the families, every resident, every leader had to be on their post, doing the work and protecting the work.
Yes.
And my job is to encourage that, because at the end of the day, I can just be another politician come in and say this is what I want to do and do nothing.
That's
because I don't have the support of the people.
Right.
It's very important that the people believe that they can have a better future, a better community.
That's right.
So those are the two things I'm really going to do. What I'm telling them, my goal for the first 4 years is to create a safer, revitalized, connected neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by safe, Second Ward shares with First Ward 80% of all the crime going on as far as shootings and murders and drugs and that place. Yes. So we need to figure out how we can change that, and we need to work together. Work with the neighborhood watch that's in the Second Ward. Work with the police department, and do things differently than we've been doing. Revitalize. I counted over 40 abandoned buildings. Data shows that an abandoned building, you have high crime, high poverty, and property value decreases. So we have homeowners who have decreased property values. They have spent years getting to a point where they will have equity built in. That's gone. Crime. If you have abandoned homes, you're going to see crime. So to help us create a safe neighborhood, we need to rebuild or destroy them abandoned buildings.
Okay.
And then connect it. At the end of the day, whether we black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Chinese, whatever race you are, we still have to be a one and inclusive group. Everyone, whether they're uneducated, whether they're poor, whether they have years of college, whether they have 13 million degrees, we all play a part, and everyone needs to be inclusive. So everyone needs to be able to pitch in. And if you're going to invite people to do that, you're always going to have people falling back.
That's so true.
And in order for us to build not only the Second Ward, but the city of Kankakee itself, we all need to come together and be one group.
That's right. That's good. And you said something key early on, relationship. Aldermen, city councilmen need to have relationship with their constituents. It's just that simple. They need to be able to see you. They need to be able to touch you and, be out there, and that's important. So I really appreciate where you're going with this. Mentioning Nehemiah was a great example as well, too. So that's great. Now, last two questions. I've known you since your childhood at Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church, where I was, got ordained and all that great stuff. I want you to share with the listening audience your faith. That is your guiding principle. That's your guiding light. Tell us about that faith that you have in the Lord.
Absolutely. I am a product of being in a home where we went to church on Sunday.
There you go.
All right. My grandfather was a deacon at the church. My mother, when she didn't have to work on Sundays, she brought us there. Matter of fact, I couldn't play Little League football because it was on Sundays.
There you go.
Okay. And then I was surrounded. Mount Calvary Missionary Baptist Church, located in Summer Terrace. where Pastor Ricky Dixon is, our pastor.
Yes.
Phenomenal church. We're small in size, but we're big in spirit.
Yes.
And I had the privilege and honor to be around great men, and I'm still am.
Yes.
And so when I went to college, I didn't take all the values I learned in church.
Gotcha.
I had fun. I did things that if my granddaddy heard it, I did, he'll probably be ashamed of me right now.
Yes.
But I enjoyed college. And there was a point in my life where I called my good friend, Larry Sykes. I called him and said, man, I'm going to die if I stay here. And I remember, and this is honest God truth, I remember you came, this is around when Pastor Bond was getting sick.
Yes.
You came to the sermon, and you shared about fasting and praying, and you was talking about surrendering yourself to God, humbling yourself to where you will lay yourself on the ground,
Prostrate.
on your face.
Prostrate. That's right.
Prostrate. Yes, sir. And I remember that sermon, and I was just at college. I was fasting, and I was prostrate, and I was like, God, get me out of here. I don't know what you have planned for me. Get me out of here. And I ended up transferring from a school, ended up going to Graham State University, and instantly I was surrounded by spiritual brothers, and that helped me and guided me through my life.
Look at God.
And I knew that God had something in for me because I would ask God, I said, hey, I know it's something that you have for me. Just put me in a position where I can be under the leadership of a man who is a great husband, a great father,
yes,
a great pastor, and a great leader. And I ended up coming home to Pastor Dixon. And I knew in my life that God had something, a purpose. I just didn't know exactly what it was.
Yes.
And that has been my faith. He has been with me. He has kept me, has opened doors. I'm running for alderman. I have no idea how politics is. I just know how to read. I know how to learn. And I know that the people need somebody to support and be with them. And I feel like because of that, God has been blessing me and opening doors for me in many different ways. So that's my faith. I just trust him.
That's it.
Because he has proven himself to me. I experienced him. This ain't, I went to church one day and all of a sudden I just started running and speaking in tongues and jumping and all that. Nothing to speak against that or anything like that.
Right, exactly.
Like my story is not a traditional person you might hear. I really experienced God in a way that I knew he was real. And since then, I have made sure that I kept in touch with God so that wherever I was doing or wherever I was going, he was leading me. I married my wife. We have a blended family.
Yes.
I asked God for help with that. And my wife is someone I crushed on when I was in high school. But to come back home and everything is just laid out perfectly.
Yes.
I just knew it was God. So that's my faith.
That's
great.
My testimony. You said it all. You said it all. If you have 1 minute, if we got about a minute or two left, I'm concerned about Black America tonight, Brother Works. Yes, and I want to ask you this question. What will it take for us, as you sum up what you've been talking about, what will it take for us as Black Americans to achieve economically? What will it take?
To be honest with you, I really believe it's people having compassion for other people.
Yes.
And everybody wants success. Everybody wants to be in a different position. Everyone wants, especially to be in a wealthier state to where they're not struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. I understand. I get it.
That's right.
I'm working to create additional revenue myself. But the reason why I use the word passion, and not some, we need to educate people on how to create jobs, this and the other.
That's right.
I say passion because a lot of times, a lot of things that I see going on now is that our expectations of people to be able to stop living in a certain way or stop doing certain things and expect them just to change instantly so that they can be at a place where you can help them. Like we have high expectations for that. Like
yes.
We going back to the relationship. We need to have relationships with each other to understand how things go. We need to be more inclusive. I might not know how to write a grant, but I might be connected to somebody who write a grant.
Yes.
And if we are more compassionate, I mean, forgiving, loving, and wanting to understand people where they at, to not look at people and say, because that's who you are, that's what you're always going to be.
That's right.
If we can stop looking at each other like that and just say, you know what, how can I help you?
There you
How
go.
can I be assistance to you? Whether that's financially, whether that's helping you learn how to read, helping you understand how to go about life. Like, just have compassion on people.
Right.
And don't come with expectations that this person is going to be ready for everything. Just long-suffering, compassionate people. That's what we need. And I think because of that, whatever you're gifted at, whatever skill you at, it will shine so bright that a person that looking to be just like you or want something that you may have, you have the opportunity to guide them.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And we have enjoyed every word that you've talked about tonight. And I want to get you back here next year. Give us an update on how you're coming with your politics and with your community development. And we're again thankful that you graduate with your MBA degree, Calvin. So just thank you for coming on the air tonight. And we'll get an update in 2019. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. I appreciate that.
All righty. Well, have a great night. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yes, sir. You have a blessed day.
You too. Bye-bye. There you've been listening to Calvin Works. And again, our sponsor for these shows for 2018 have been brought to you by My Full of Beauty, Mr. Martin Casey, wonderful gentleman, president and CEO, stuck right by us. The show is growing as well as the studio. Next year, we will be working on a lineup. We will have Mr. R.B. Tutwiler from St. Louis and Dr. Umar Johnson with us next year and Mr. Joe Dudley, and the list goes on and on and on. So we won't be back on the air live again until after the holidays, and we want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. God bless you.